Should be stopping number one says, is Jared Ball right? Are black businesses not a way to solve problems for black people? This came with a link. I do believe it's taking us to Twitter. Let me share my screen with you guys. Yeah, it's taking us to Twitter. So this is a tweet from Black Millionaires. Um, the caption says, HBCU professor at Morgan State, Dr. Jared Ball, says supporting black businesses isn't going to solve the wealth gap or poverty because black businesses target black people and black people don't have any money. Let's hear it from Jared himself, I guess.
With supporting black business, it's just not going to solve the problem of poverty and inequality and wealth. I tried to deal with this a little bit, but the short version is black businesses target black people. Black people don't have any money. From 1992 to 2012, black people created 2 million plus businesses and the capture of the national sales revenue went down from a paltry 1% to like 0.3%. The point is that black people can't create businesses in the sectors of the economy that generate real wealth. Black businesses don't have enough to hire many people. They don't have benefits. They're not paying people. In fact, most black businesses pay people below the average national salary. There's nothing wrong with supporting black business. It's just not going to solve the problem of poverty and inequality and wealth. I tried to deal with this a little bit, but the short version is black businesses target black people. Black people don't have any money. From 1992 to 2012, black people created 2 million plus businesses and the capture of the national sales revenue went down from a paltry 1% to like 0.3%. The point is that black people can't create businesses in the sectors of the economy that generate real wealth. Black businesses don't have enough to hire many people. They don't have benefits. They're not paying people. In fact, most black businesses pay people below the average national salary. There's nothing wrong with supporting black business.
All right, so that's Jared Ball saying his thoughts behind it. I will say that I think one of the problems with us folks is when we hear someone say black people can't, we think they're saying no black person can, right? And that's not necessarily true. There's always a person who can, right? There's always a couple of people who can, but in mass per se, there's certain things I think what he's saying about certain business sectors being difficult for black folks to really I think there is some truth to that. In fact, there is truth to that. It is difficult. Is it impossible? I wouldn't say it's impossible. I'm sure some folks get by, but it's really, really difficult to do. Anyway, that's enough of me. Buana, what say you to this?
I think he's talking from his perspective and his lens, and he is speaking to what he understands, based off of academia and the statistics that he has read. If he feels as though black people don't have money, go ask Nike. Go ask Nike about black people not having any money, and let's check the remittances of what Nike gets in terms of buying just Air Jordans alone. What is the value of what, even in a year, let alone 5 years, let alone 10 years, how much remittances they would have gotten from Nike in the purchases of selling Air Jordan if they have no money, or Cavazier, or Popeye's chicken. Let's ask the corporations who sell these things whether black people have no money, and the remittances from the monies that they would have gotten from black people is something that resonates of insignificance. I would take it internationally, because in my country you have shacks, little chicken shacks with fried chicken and stuff like that. They able to employ hundreds of people. Bamboos, you familiar with that cocoa? Bamboos count plate, whatever. They have several businesses in this small city in Nassau, several locations, and they employ what, almost maybe 100 to 200 people in staff. These people are able to take care of their children, educational fees, medical fees. They hire many people, and that place started off as a shack. Who do they who was their primary audience? Black people. If you look at the numbers, the racket that they have going on in the Bahamas, the numbers industry, the gambling industry, small gambling industry, have been able to produce multi-millionaires, young black millionaires in our economy, and they are able to hire hundreds of people, hundreds of staff. I think even into the thousands of people right now. Where you had a shutdown of the economy and no money was flowing in, that service was being patronized heavily by Bahamians, and they have been able to enrich many Bahamians. So I don't know what business he's in fact talking about. I don't know what he's specifically looking at in terms of the remittances. I don't know exactly where he's coming from. Where he said black people have no money. And also, if you don't have black business, what is the alternative? Supporting white businesses? Because the people must work. The people must work. Where will they work? Where will they work? They can go and work the white establishment because they got to work somewhere. And for the white establishments who don't want to hire them, or you hire them into the white establishment and they discriminate, what do the black people do then? Do they just sit down their hands folded in a so-called free economy? No, they start businesses and offering services to the greater community. They don't only have to serve black folks, they could serve anyone who was willing to pay for their services. He is restricting it to just primarily black folks. Because I'm sure there are many black businesses in America that offer their services not only to the black community, but other communities as well. Anyone who is able to or who is willing to pay for their services. So I think that he is restricting what black businessmen are able to do or businesses are able to do. He is specifically looking at the statistics where some black businesses they don't we don't many black people business people may not necessarily fill out an application where you could go to the registry and find out statistically what's happening in black businesses. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And what do you say to the immigrant population who go come to the Americas, black people, from the Caribbean and Africa, and have created black businesses within the greater New York cities and other metropolitan areas, and they've been able to produce hundreds of thousands of dollars to send their children to school, to hire people, etc., etc., etc. Maybe it's not in a great number as the so-called white community, but is that that is our competition ultimately? Ultimately, we'll get there. We'll get there. You know what I mean? But I don't know where he's coming from with this. Me, uh, I am very leery when I hear academics or academicians talking in terms of black businesses because the first question I have to ask him is whether he has run or operated a business before. I am very leery of when brothers them start talking in terms of black business and money and things like that, and he has never taken the risk to establish himself as a business person or hadn't operated a business before or even hired anyone. This brother probably only worked within academia with his entire existence. He only worked and operated in academia, where you could speak from a microphone and tell children whatever your ideas of the world that you thinking. What I'm thinking is, have you ever put your money where your mouth is and actually gone out in the real world and paid, offered a service to people in exchange for money? I don't know. I don't know. I get leery when I hear academicians talk, man. These so-called professors and academics, because I want to know what your ties is to the greater world and the greater community, or are you just talking? Because we got a lot of brothers out here who just talking. But I'll leave it there, Koku, and let the other brothers go. I know they jumping at the bits.
Yeah, thank you for that point. I'll just say we have to practice some discernment in generally. Uh, I've noticed we have this thing. We don't trust the academics. We don't trust the Pookie and Ray Ray. Well, then who do we trust really and truly, right? I think it's about discernment. You have to measure out. In fact, what's the old saying among seamstress? You have to measure twice and cut once. I think we got to measure things twice and then make the cut before we just throw it away because it's an academic. It's someone who went to, whatever school or whatever. But I'll leave that there. Let's welcome in Brother Bakari this week. Bakari, how are you?
What's up? I'm great, man. What's going on? One chat. Uh, I don't agree with this guy when he said black people don't black businesses target black people and black people don't have no money. Well, explain how all these Asians get rich. Explain the Korean hair care. Explain how we can spend 2-3 billion a year on Jordans. Explain that what it is, black people, we don't do our best at supporting one another. Just like you just said, got to have some type of discernment. What do we trust? Black people don't trust the black business. It's this old song I always listen to called "The Blind Leading the Blind." It was made in 1996, and part of that song is one of the things that they say we can't afford to go to school even though we got the knowledge. Spend our money with the Japs, and they send their kids to college. But here we are, hoes, dope dealers, and bums at the white man table, still begging for crumbs. And that was 1996. But in 2023, it's the same thing. 2024 now, because what he say, who we spend our money with, we spend our money with other people. That's why I say we don't protect the neighborhood. We don't believe in protecting the neighborhood. That's why I always ask, who shot black? Who shot black? Obviously, we got money because we're steady shopping. That dude has a KW Don said the white vet said he got the white vet Cornell. Black people ain't got no money. But the same people that say black people ain't got no money, I bet if you listen to them talk, they'll say something about the racial wealth gap, but then they'll turn around and talk about black people got $1.4 trillion in spending power. That's not power when you're spending it with other people. That you're being consumed, you're being eaten up because you're giving it all away. We don't believe black men gonna have black people, and I'm gonna say starting with the man, we're gonna have to want to control our neighborhoods. And I would still ask this question: who shot black this week? Who walked past the Arab, the East Indian, the Orientals? Who walked past those people or drove past those people to find a black-owned business? It's just that simple, in my estimation, anyway. And that's my estimation, and that's things that I see. That's why I do my best every time I'm going to be out. I'm promoting black businesses all the time because I'm tired of saying what we don't have and what we can't do and how other people is absolutely in control of us. No, no, no. We're gonna have to look in the mirror and do a damn self-reflection. We're in control of who we spend our money with. We're in control if we have any type of respect for one another. We're in control if we're gonna trust we're in control if we're going to trust the black business. We're in control that if when we think about something black, can something positive hit your mind before something negative? We're in control of that. Nobody else. We're in control of who we spend our money with. We are. We're in control. I'm going to go to this black-owned restaurant without saying, well, I wonder how their service going to be. Well, I wonder how much this going to cost. But we don't do that when we go nowhere else. Well, I'm going shopping at this black-owned clothing store. Well, I wonder how their service going to be. You know, their clothes probably going to be high. Now they're a little bit too high. Well, they ain't where they ain't getting rich off me. We're in control of who we spend our money with, and we're in control of what we do and how we do it. That's why I said I don't completely buy what he's saying. It fit the narrative of what we can and what we don't and how we shouldn't. Don't try. It fit those narratives. But in all honesty, if black people didn't have money, everybody else wouldn't be in the black neighborhood getting rich. I hear the mic.
Appreciate that, Bakari. Let's hear from Black Steel. What say you, my friend?
Well, I did read the first book. I haven't read the second one yet, and he makes a very good argument as to what he means. Um, so basically, the question, what he says about the myth of black buying power. Your buying power is calculated. You know how much money you have to spend after taxes, right? So after the taxes have been taken out, black people have whatever amount of money. The majority of black people are spending their money on housing, rent, mortgage, things like that. It's only a very small percentage of black people's money that goes towards luxuries. One thing about luxuries too that you can save up for them. So you can put $20 here, $30 here, save enough money to buy luxuries. But the amount of money that black people spend on luxuries is really minuscule compared to what we spend on housing. So I think what Dr. Ball is saying is that there's nothing wrong with shopping with black businesses. And I shop with them and wherever I can find them. But the question is, are shopping at black businesses going to going to close the wealth gap? Are we going to be able to get our liberation through black businesses? And the answer is no, we're not. And that's for several reasons. But I do think the case he puts is very compelling. Um, but I would say that spending power that we have, I mean, most of that goes towards our daily necessities. And I put in the chat that the average median income for just a black household, it's a household of black people, is barely over $52,000. That's on the low end for a household. That means multiple incomes for black people in America. That wealth gap is not only is it wide, but it's getting wider to where black people are projected to have zero wealth by the year 2050. That year is coming up pretty quickly. So when he says shopping at black isn't going to solve the problem, I don't think he's saying don't support black business, because I think we should. But we have to be realistic about what shopping or having black businesses can really do. Can we get our liberation? Can we solve the wealth gap? And what he suggests as an alternative is black people politically organizing, black political organization, um, something that was almost demonized. You know, whenever we talk about black organization, we talk about black radicalism, not black nationalism. I mean, these types of ideas are almost disregarded. Like, no, you don't need that. Just open up a bank, open up a credit union. And to be honest, it's more of black people need to go into more capitalism, right? But capitalism doesn't work for white people. Black capitalism only works for a small, that's why they call it the 1%. So I think that black people are being steered towards more capitalist ideas. And what he's saying is that that's not going to work to solve our condition. It's good to have black businesses. It's good to call. It's good to go to the store. And you'll see black people behind the store. And that's a good thing to have. But is it going to ultimately liberate our people? Are we going to close the wealth gap? The answer is no. And I believe that if you read his work, he makes a very compelling argument. I really think he lays it out really well. I can leave it there, but I would just say that, you know, what we have as far as black people coming together and organizing, I think we need to do that, but organize for political power, to control the apparatus of the state, create our own states, to organize, unite with our brothers and sisters across the diaspora. That is what threatens global white hegemony more than anything, more than opening our businesses. I mean, I think about it like this. Malcolm X went around the country calling white people devils for years. But the minute he went to Africa, he started speaking with heads of African states. He started talking about organizing and reaching across with other African people across the world. They had to get him out of there. That was enough for them. Okay, when Dr. King was okay for organizing with civil rights in this country, okay, yeah, whatever. You niggas want to sit at the same water fountain as us, that's cool. But when he started talking about an international struggle, making the struggle of Africans in America connect with the struggle of Africans across the world, they got to get him out of here. Same thing with Patrice Lumumba. So I think that businesses are good, but it's not going to ultimately solve our problem. So I'll go ahead and I'll leave it there. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Black Steel. One of the things I noticed is not being touched on. When Ball said certain businesses black folks can do, Buana kind of touched on it briefly, but there's a level of truth to that. But here's the problem with the truth of it. The truth of it is Ball is talking from this American, this solely American experience, Black American experience. And so he's talking about, like, if you're trying to get into the, what they call that again? If you're trying to get into the government contracting space and you're trying to get in there with a black engineering firm, chances are you're going to have real trouble getting that business going. Chances are you're not going to get the Lockheed account. So in that concept, right, I think that's where his analysis is coming from. It's from this American experience. If you're trying to compete, on some fairness level with this white boy, you're going to have some problems. But like Bakari is saying in the chat, he says, stop worrying about white people. Now, that's where the analysis in the sense of if you work together, you communicate with one another, right? You do business with each other. It doesn't matter about the government contract so much. You can make money with your own people, etc. And I think that's where Ball is missing. But I'll be quiet and I'll let Oni give his thoughts. Oni, you're muted if you're talking.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was trying to look up something, but yeah. See, this is one of the things. And I was saying in the chat. I don't know if Forecast saw it, but I was saying because I know that Forecast be getting on Brother Bakari about HBCUs. But here's my thing. So this man is he's mixed. And I'm not saying that because he looks mixed, because obviously that's true, but it's because his mother is, a European woman, right? My thing is this: why is it that in quote unquote black spaces, right, these individuals, black doesn't so that for these individuals are speaking for black people and clearly speaking in a way that is counterproductive towards our development as a people, right? So as far as this is analysis correct, no, and that's what's the big problem with regard to Jared Ball, right? So obviously it doesn't apply on an international scale at all, right? It has no international scaling, but many individuals now I don't know. Now obviously one of the troubles with the quote unquote I gotta block the chat a little bit so I don't get too distracted, but one of the problems with the like the quote unquote leftist spaces, right, is that they have these wishes or these dreams of this outcome that nobody else is experiencing, right? Like essentially they want this, I don't know, I guess universal liberation for black people that looks a certain way, right? That isn't another like that nobody else is really experiencing. Like white people are not experiencing this. No other group is experiencing the quote unquote liberation that we expect for black people to have. And because nobody else is experiencing that sort of liberation, or because black people are experiencing that liberation, something is dead on arrival, right? Whereas most people would say, well, white people are liberated in America, right? And even though you could find white homeless people or white people who make less money than black people, because like we even just went over the income of the median income of black people, and I guess the idea was it was a small number, right? And of course, a few years back, that was considered, that was considered the median wealth of all Americans, right? And that was, but that's not good enough, the point I would say is there's so many flaws in what he was saying. One, of course, like here in Brooklyn, there's this black vegan shop that doesn't only cater to black people, right? You have, and of course, I'm just talking about restaurants right now, but you have Tasty Patty in Jamaica, which is, a successful franchise. Then you have Golden Crust in America, which is another, Jamaican franchise, but it's still a large, like one of those. I wouldn't say like a rival or a competitor to McDonald's or Popeyes or what have you, right? Which of course goes against the terminology that black people don't have money or black businesses can't become these massive successes, right? But then even if you go into, well, let's just be real. What if you were talking about things outside of the food industry, right? Now, I was just trying to look it up to see whether Ray J still has Raycon. But one thing I noticed one time I was watching some white boys play a video game or whatever, and then they put a commercial about Raycon. They were like, "Hey, get some Raycon headsets." And Raycon, apparently the business itself is manufacturing water filters and this and that, a whole slew of products, not just headsets. And of course you have Beats by Dre, which is also appearing in a whole bunch of things. And of course you say, hey, look, that's just a limited field of thing. But it doesn't even stop there. That's just two entertainers who were able to turn their money into certain industrial venues. Of course, you have Rihanna, who's another entertainer who has her own sort of industry. But then, if you really get out of America, right? Besides from Dangote in Nigeria, whatever. When I was in Tanzania, there was this one African, Azam, who pretty much manufactured almost everything in the country, right? Like, and I mean, like, even like to the small products of, like, let's say if you had baby powder or just water bottles or ice cream or this or that, whole shops of digital television receivers. This is like, the potential is there, but if you say, hey, you know what, this is not going to do it for us, then and you're encouraging people to essentially not look at it as a fruitful enterprise, the reality is that, you're hustling backwards. Because the reason why these white boys can, reason why you could look at these white boys and say, look at the success they have, because really what people were saying with regard to the income of 52,000, which is, in global terms, a huge amount of money, right? like a huge amount of money to have a year, right? But the only reason why Black Americans may say, oh, 52,000 is not a huge amount of money, to compare. And besides from, of course, if you want to say housing costs or whatever, the cost of living, right? You would compare it to whatever the white median income is. Okay, that's fine. But the reason why the white median income might be higher is because white people are doing the business that you're saying will not work for Black people. And I use the Raycon and the Dre example, to showcase that even if you make your money, or even if you organize your money in a particular environment, right, you could still go out and diversify it, and then eventually become that sizable force, which Jared Ball was just telling us we can't do. Saying, hey, look, we only do businesses to cater to Black people. That's not even remotely true. But even if that were true, even if that were true, you could take whatever amount of money is. You could go email Yona B, because she's the expert on online businesses, right? You can take whatever money that you're going to get from engaging with Black people or engaging with poor people, if you will, and then turn that towards a larger another enterprise, a different enterprise, and that's perfectly permissible in America. The other, I think there's only one other point to make in regards to, I can't, it just escapes me, but yeah, I mean, I think it is, to say that people don't have money, and I think let me see, KWAZ on 7 said about the blueprint for Black Power. There was an example, one of my favorite examples inside of that book was of this church that had purely poor people in the congregation, right? And they collected their food stamps. They organized their food stamps together. Okay, they didn't. The tithes were not even paid with money; they were paid with food stamps. Organized the food stamps. Eventually, opened up a grocery store, and eventually opened up a grocery store, several grocery stores, farms, this, that, and so forth. So that's to say that even if you were poor, the fact is that even if you are poor, if you can organize yourself, or you choose to organize yourself, you can, as a people, elevate your condition. Now, as far as the concern of, can you raise up everybody in America? Nobody does. So it's kind of like I don't know, I don't want to say false flag, but it's kind of one of those red herrings, Well, even if you uplift everybody in your community, give everybody in your community jobs and good groceries and good this and this, if you do all of that, right, doesn't mean anything, because in the town over, the Blacks over there don't have what you have. Okay. But what we have to start telling our people is how to develop and raise up the people within their community on the ground that they're at. And if we don't do that, then of course, and then it's going to be worse than the situation where nothing's getting done. And that's all I'll say.
In the chat, the matron says everyone picks their group and uplifts their selected group. Black Steel said entertainers and celebrities, Jesus Christ. Black Steel, want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, we're really talking about like the top 1% of black people starting businesses who have access to capital and things that the average black person just simply does not. Dr. Ball talked about in his book that the average black business has one employee, and that's the person who owns it. They don't come up with enough capital to pay insurance, to hire employees. I'm not saying having a black business is a bad thing, okay? But let's be honest about what black businesses can actually do, okay? Are they gonna close the wealth gap? No. Even black businesses on the continent, black companies overseas, they're not able to generate enough wealth strictly from black people. They can't compete as far as the money that these white corporations are building. So my point and what Dr. Ball's point is that we have to go about it a different way. He's not saying that we can't do it, but he's saying black capitalism is not going to work. Hell, white capitalism doesn't work. So the idea that you talking about these celebrities who create, that's evidence of black people able. No, it's not. I mean, think about it. When Jay-Z bought Tidal, right? Who is really funding that? Is it black people funding Tidal? No. Is it just white people buying Beats by Dre? If it was black people only buying those expensive, overpriced, crappy headphones, all right, do you think he'd be in business today? No, he would not.
But that disproves Jared Ball's statement that we don't give to, but we don't, that we, Jared Ball is the only person saying that black businesses do not give to other people. Aren't supported by other people. That's only Jared Ball saying that, but that's not true, and that's the whole reason why when you ask me, "Hey, is his assessment correct?" No, it's not. His analysis.
But who said? Okay, so would you consider just because a black person owns it, is it a black business? How many white people? No, not at all. Just because he's on the face of the business doesn't mean he owns it. I'm pretty sure there's more white people.
Yeah, he does own it. But
I'm pretty sure there's more white people working at Beats by Dre than black people. I'm pretty sure I take that bet all day long.
Okay, but even so, it's still a black business, right?
Why? Because a black man's on the front cover is a black business?
No, because it's the black man who owns it.
If a black person owns it, if a black person owns the business, now that's the question that you ask, Black Steel. You say if a black person owns it, does that make it a black business? That's the question that you ask.
If he owns it and employs none but white people, is it still a black business?
But it's still a black owned business. I understand your point, what you're trying to say, who they hired, because I know that Tidal nonsense with Jay-Z. All he had, and I showed one of my friends. I said, look, not one black person worked there. That shit was over in Sweden or Poland somewhere. Not one black person worked there. So they were showing his employees. I understand what you're saying, but was it black owned? Yeah. Go ahead. I just wanted to say that. I'm gonna let you finish.
I was
just trying to help you understand why the question was answered. Yes, it's a black owned business.
Okay, thank you. But it being black owned, how does that benefit black people just because it's black?
But again, the thing is that you can pivot. You can
open on a black owned business. Hell, fuck no.
What you say?
Oh,
I'm responding. You on the business Oprah have a black owned business? Hell, fuck no. Oprah don't have no black owned business. Oprah even fuck with black people like that.
Pivot with your resources. You know, so like for instance, take what you will about Oprah, and I don't agree with Oprah. You know, on 99. I mean, I don't even know Oprah. You know, from whatever. But she's the one who, if I'm not mistaken, she's the one who finances whatever movie that people want to watch or what have you. As to say that she can take her earnings and then do some sort of cultural activity that otherwise couldn't be done if she didn't have those earnings, right? But anyway, yeah, of course, black-owned business is a thing. You would love for mostly black employees, and I'm not saying, and again, you know, in other countries that's more of a thing than here in America. But I want to address the whole celebrity, you know, this like I only use celebrities because they're the most recognizable names. But like we already pointed out, if you look in the blueprint for Black Power, he uses numerous examples of successful individuals who are not celebrities, you know, but they are able to, you know, like one Black person owns this, you know, like this hedge fund or some shit, or one Black person owns this, or one Black person owns that. You know, there's a lot of that. But you know, Ray J and Dre are just, you know, household names at this point, so it's just a little bit more easy to communicate.
So
Can I say something right quick?
go ahead,
Can
go
I say
ahead,
something right quick?
go
Yeah,
Let
ahead.
me
just
say
saw
something
that
right quick.
commercial from
Hold
Ray
on,
J.
hold on. Cause see, this is the thing, right? To me, this is simple. And when it comes to talking about, and trust me, I ain't telling nobody don't read. I believe in reading. But we need to get out and see what business is on. If you look on my channel, I interviewed this brother. He owned 4. He owned 4 washaterias. So it's more than celebrities he owned 4 washaterias. 2 of them is over that he owned, and everybody worked for him is Black. 2 of them is over in what they call Buckhead. Buckhead. And that's where that's where the rich people, the celebrities, the stars, you know, wherever white folks, that's where Black people want to go, right? So I can get past that. So yes, I do. I don't agree with what this guy was saying. When you say Black people don't have money, and when someone believes that a Black business won't help Black people, I think something is wrong with that. First, he said what you said, Black, so you say Black people spend their money on rent and stuff like that. Well, white people don't spend their money on rent because they in y'all head rent free. Because we talking about building up Black people. You ain't gonna
That's
out
pretty
money
funny.
these
I ain't gonna
people.
lie.
You are not gonna out money these people. They have a 500-year head start. Stop comparing yourself to them. Let's look at us and say, what are we gonna do? Stop as long as you compare. That's why our communities get run down. That's why our schools end up not being what they're supposed to be, because we compare ourselves to people who got a 500-year head start on you. And the only way you think you're doing good is if you are around them or if you are like them. How the hell can somebody say how can somebody tell me Phenomenal Seafood, where I was last night, is not helping the Black community when everybody work in that spot is Black? How can somebody tell me when I was at 1738? How can somebody tell me when I was at the Washateria? How can somebody tell me when I'm at these bookstores or when I go to the Black house and ain't nobody working there but Black, and they're in the community and helping the Black community? If we stop trying to compare ourselves to people, and this ain't about a socialism capitalist thing, because white people do benefit from capitalism. If you don't think so, I can show you plenty of towns that was Black that had businesses and they all shut down, and they took all those jobs to white places, to white cities, to white towns. This is not about socialism and capitalism. This is about Black people trying to create some type of Blackism. But we have to start getting out here. We have to get out here and find it and do it ourselves. Everything that dude, Jared Ball, whatever the hell his name is, he ain't gonna write everything in the book because he don't know everything. Dr. Amos Wilson ain't gonna write everything in the book, and I love and respect Dr. Amos Wilson because he don't know everything. I can't talk about everything because I don't know everything, but I can say this: being out there in firsthand experience and somebody saying have a business in your community ain't gonna help you. That's false premise, because it helped the Arabs, it helped the East Indians, it helped the Orientals, and it helped anybody else that bring businesses into our community, and they sending their kids to college with our money. Then we turn and say what we don't have because you're constantly comparing yourself to somebody who got a 500-year head start. Do we want to be better as a people, or are we trying to be like white folk?
But what about the other man's ice is colder phenomenon?
That
See,
is that is a very that is a very important
Go ahead.
that is that is a very important statement, Koku. And I mean, let me address that in a minute, just for a minute, because I wanted to go. I wanted to make a few points too. Dr. Ball is on the socialist side of the game. I think that Blackfield would admit that. No problem. That's his politics. That's his politics. So he's gonna look from a socialist perspective in terms of how he perceives capitalism, which is not necessarily going to be an objective opinion. So the analysis to me is already problematic because I can hear his bias. Yeah, right? But the other thing is too, the brother mentioned the fact that some brothers and but with the average amount of money income we make in our community is $52,000, whereas the white community may make $100,000. And my answer to that is it's not necessarily about how much you make. It's about how much you keep because people who make $100,000 a year, many of them are still broke. Go into their home and check their refrigerators out; it's empty. Some of them live in check. Many people wouldn't believe this, but many people who making those kinds of salaries live in check to check as well because they have poor buying and spending habits. And I feel like we do too as well because a statement was made that a lot of our money is spent on housing. But I don't know if the brothers have ever been in a hood before and drove past a apartment complex or a rickety house where sitting outside that house is a 50 to $100,000 car. I don't know if you all ever experienced that before because I have. I have. You see these things that shouldn't exist in communities where you have the houses are falling apart, but $100,000 sitting right outside of the building itself. And no one never necessarily questions that because it's not necessarily about how much you make; it's about how much you keep, and in turn, what you do with the finances of what you keep it. There is a reason that immigrants segue themselves as soon as they get into another man's country, whether it's in the Bahamas or the Americas, they segue themselves into the black community. Why? Because they know if they prop themselves in that community and start selling, within 10 years, they will be millionaires. And they can move, they will have the money, they'll have monies enough to move out of that community, move in another Chinese family, and then take that money and go do what they wish within a so-called open economy. And they will leave that house to another family coming in, and they'll bring them right to that same area, give them that business, and move on to another business. This is how the immigrants do it. And for us to say that no money exists within our community, how is it that we making Arabs are millionaires, the Chinese millionaires, and everybody else millionaires? So when the brothers talk about the white man ice cola, that is exactly right because it seems like when some of us, not all of us, open up businesses, black people don't want to support that. They say, well, even though we may be selling the same product as the Asian man or the Indian man. How do I know this? Because uh, the I've seen black women patronize Chinese shops in terms of buying black hair products. Where you see Shaniqua's selling the same hair products down the street and say, well, I don't want to support that. Why? Because the Chinese wigs are better than Shaniqua wigs? I don't know. So that is a valid statement when the brothers say, we dealing with the idea of the black the black man, the white man, ice cola. This is when I was begging only last week that he needs to write a book on trust because our level of trust in terms of doing business with one another is extremely low. I don't know if we don't want to see each other win. And where would have gotten that from, we have to disabuse ourselves of that mentality because it's almost like we don't want to see each other win. Where we get that from? Where we get that from? I'm begging, but I'll leave it there to let the other brothers go, man. I just thought I would get that out. Oh, by the way, lastly, I have a few academics in my family. I don't mean to sound cynical sometimes when I'm talking about them, but sometimes I feel like I feel like they don't live in the real world, and I could be completely wrong about it. But I don't mean to go be hard on academics, but I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there.
All right, so I'm gonna make this real quick, guys. I know we'll be on this topic for almost an hour. So again, I support black businesses, but I say, and going back to Dr. Ball's point, can black businesses close the racial wealth gap in America? No. Can having black businesses help liberate black people from our oppression? No. And that's the only point he's trying to say. Um, I think shopping and owning and having commerce among your own people is a wonderful thing. I think that the point about white man's ice is cold is also a good point because sometimes we look at our own as inferior. But if every black person in America or even the world, I'm just saying, taking the United States, if we only work with black people in America, would that close the wealth gap that is not only exists but is widening? No, it would not do that. I don't think it's meant to. I think we're going to have to come up with another solution, which what Dr. Ball says: nationalism, organizing, Pan-Africanism. These are the tactics that I believe that we should use to change our condition, as opposed to just shopping, owning, controlling black people's wealth, which is not really that much in the scheme of things. You see somebody's car in that driveway, you think they didn't buy that car cash, they making payments on that car. That's what they're doing. You see somebody with enjoy, they put enjoys on a credit card. They're making payments on. A lot of people don't have no money. I'm sorry to tell you. I'll leave it there.
Coco, give me 1.5 minutes to talk to Black Steel right quick. Just 1.5. That's it. So let me ask you a couple questions, Black Steel. You said owning a black business ain't gonna close the racial wealth gap. I don't know why we concerned about how much money white folk got, but I'm gonna ask you this, right? So who's gonna close the gap? Whatever wealth we trying to get, how would it be? How would the gap be closed?
You ask me if how it's gonna be closed.
Yeah, how to close the gap?
I don't think
because owning businesses and doing that ain't gonna.
Well, that's kind of his point. The point is that black people having the racial wealth gap, having business, isn't going to close it. I don't even think.
Okay, how do we close it?
So who cares?
I say, how do we close it?
So the question, but I guess the answer, who cares if we close it? The focus should be on
what's the focus?
Okay, well, so why do you keep? Okay, so why do you keep mentioning racial wealth gap?
Because that's the. But don't. Hold on, wait. You asked me a question. That's what he says in his book. Can black businesses close the racial wealth gap? That's in his book. That's the point that many economists have said, that black businesses can close the racial wealth gap. He's saying it cannot. That's why I keep bringing it, because it's what he says in his book.
Okay, good. So now I got another question. Do those other people in the black community with businesses, do they make a lot of money inside the black communities, in the black neighborhoods? Do they make a lot of money from it?
I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think Chinese people is out here wealthy just off of black businesses alone. I think it helps, but if that was the only thing they had, they wouldn't be that wealthy. I'm be honest. You see these Chinese people working in stores 24 hours, the whole family working there. They're not getting that wealthy just off of black businesses alone. They have some additional income coming in. They could be having support from their home country as well. They have government grants. So it's not just them getting wealthy just off our businesses alone. I don't think so. No.
But do they help? So the point I'm making, if it helps, if it can help other people do whatever the hell they're doing with black money, how will it not help black people if black people use black money? Now, I'm going to tell you something else he said that was absolutely wrong when he said black people don't target other people. That's not true. Now, for the most part, for most black businesses, it's not the fact that black people don't advertise to other people. It's that the people who y'all want to try talking about the wealth gap, those people, for the most part, don't want to spend money with a black business. It's not the fact that black people is not advertising to them. Now, I'm going to get back to this wealth gap game, then I'm done. I don't even understand why folks so concerned about that, right? I know he said he wrote that in his book and whatever page it was on, me personally, I would just black that out every time. I don't know why. You're not going to outmoney these people. You're not going to they got a 400-500 year head start unless you're ready to go to war, which I know that's some most, unless we're ready to go to war and take back what's been taken from us. There's no need to mention the racial wealth gap. What should be mentioned about okay. Oh, I got you. I got you. But when you mention the racial wealth gap, you're comparing yourself to somebody. Somebody got more than you, and you got less. So you're comparing yourself to the people who got more than you, and you're comparing yourself to white folks. And since they have more than you, I understand what the racial wealth gap is. So if you, so in order to close that gap, you're gonna have to take what's been stolen. Unless we're gonna say, you know what? I'm not going to worry about no damn racial wealth gap. I'm going to worry about us uplifting us. If we focus on us, this is something I wholeheartedly believe. We focus too much on white people when it comes to everything. If we focus on us, we can uplift us and we can build ourselves up. But we think our grocery store got to be like Publix or Kroger. No, our grocery store don't have to be like that. Our grocery store can be small. We don't have to do everything that they do. We don't have to be like them in order to better ourselves. That's the point I'm talking about when we talking about a racial wealth gap. What do we want? Do we want to be like them, or do we want to better ourselves and make stuff better for our future, our children, our youth? Or are we just trying to be like them? Sound like talking about the racial wealth gap. We want white people to give us some money so we can catch. If y'all give us this money, we can catch up with y'all in money. Now, they ain't gonna do that. So there's no need to talk because they ain't shit all these years. They ain't done it yet. They ain't gonna do that. So it's time to pull your pants up, self-reflection, and say, what are we gonna do to make our situation better?
Appreciate that, Bakari. Good discussion, but for time's sake, we do got to move on. Shout out to everyone who joined. Sister Raw is out there. Yana B came through. Of course, Bakari is here. KW Don 7 is out there. So I appreciate all of you guys for coming through tonight. Make sure hit the like button, share the episode to your socials as well.